Hello everyone, and this is my review for TNA Impact Wrestling that aired on April 4th, 2013. Again, I know this is a little bit later than I typically do them, but I just recently was able to watch the show, and we'll go off and just sit from the get-go and say, I actually thoroughly enjoyed this show. I thought it was a very good job of building up the everything for the next week's Impact that has the two different title matches, and a couple other matches in there that they wanted to hype up going into the actual show itself. So, in tow, I'm actually kind of glad that they're hyping up Impacts now for bigger shows versus everything else. Considering the fact that they have so much time between pay-per-views now, you have a chance to hype up an Impact Wrestling to get people to watch, to get more people, or just more people in general to watch. So let's just go through some of the show of what I did. I liked the beginning of the show with the Aces and Eights, basically doing another promo. Each of them going through their spiel. You had Devon talking, you had D'Lo Brown talking about his termination and everything, which eventually led to Kurt Angle coming out there and the rest of the group from TNA that's mainly going after Aces and Eights at this time, which of course led into a 10-man tag later on in the evening. That 10-man tag main event, actually very good match in general. You had with the TNA side, you had Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, Magnus, Eric Young, and Joseph Park. A few of those guys still seem a little off in my mind. I'm growing on Magnus a little bit more at this point. I've always liked his in-ring ability. I like where he's going, where he's basically going now. You know, they have him teaming up with the TNA guys to go against Aces and Eights. He's not bad on the mic either. He didn't cut a promo this week, but you know, in past Impacts, he's been cutting some promos. He's actually fairly good on the mic. So Magnus himself is actually growing on me. I'm liking a more serious side to Eric Young versus the whole goofy side that we've been seeing over the past years. So that's another nice little tidbit going in there. And just in general, that 10-man tag main event was actually quite fun to watch in general. So also, they ended up hyping up for the next week that, you know, Gail Kim and Tara Terrell were going to actually have their one-on-one match. Of course, they had a tag match this week with Gail Kim and Tara versus Tara Terrell and Velvet Sky. That match itself was an okay match. The only off thing was the whole Joey Ryan trying to insert himself as the Knockouts official at this point in time. It just didn't really didn't come off all that great. I felt it was just completely unnecessary, outside of just him trying to either play the sleazy role or just in general trying to help out the heels. But in that sense, it really made no point, and it's probably going to be the only time that they actually do it, so I didn't really see a point of them actually doing that. But the match itself, outside of that, it was okay. It wasn't anything great, but it wasn't too terribly bad either. On with the X Division. The X Division way they've been going, and now all matches being triple threat. This one was to determine who was going to be inside the next championship match. Of course, we had Sanjay Dutt. For the life of me, I can't remember the second guy that was in there. That is the one weird thing about it. They do bring in a lot of just randoms in there. And sometimes the names kind of slip my mind, but they also brought back another guy that was quite popular back in the day, in Petey Williams. And I was actually shocked when they said the last time he was actually on the show was 2009. I thought he was on the show more recently than that, but he's really been gone from there for about 4 years. So it was good to see him back. Obviously, just a fun match to watch. The X Division is always fun to watch in general. And once again, good to see the Canadian Destroyer come back in there. And of course, they had Petey Williams win. They're going and he's going into the next title match. It'll be interesting to see how far they actually go with P.D. Williams. Usually when they bring people back like that, they might give him that one win, but they won't really give him much of anything else. So hopefully they will do a little bit more with P.D. Williams. I wish they would do more with Sanjay Dutt as well, because he's never had the X Division title. I would like to see him actually get that at some point too. So all in all, again, that was a fun match to watch in general. You got a little snippet in there with Hogan and Sting in there. Not too terribly much this week. Basically Hogan saying he doesn't want a politician, he wants warriors, which eventually led to him coming out there and calling out AJ Styles. And throughout the show, they had actually been teasing this aspect. You had Mr. Anderson and Aces and Eights guys talking to him, handing him a vest, all senses like that. And of course, when he calls out AJ actually, he doesn't come out with the vest on, but he comes out with the vest in hand with the Aces and Eights logo on it. So they're trying to tease this whole aspect of which side is AJ going to choose type deal. Is he going to choose Aces and Eights, or is he going to choose TNA? Of course, James Storm came out there, added to the promo, which it looked like AJ was going to talk and answer to Hogan, but then after James Storm's promo, AJ of course just decides to walk away. And honestly, with the way that they were trying to promote AJ, they would have it would make more sense if he chooses neither side. He kind of just stays on his own. So we'll see where they actually go with that. I think that's actually an option where he's just on his own. He doesn't have any type of deal with either Aces and Eights or the TNA side. He's kind of just doing his own thing. So we'll see where they actually go with that. And the last little bit I'm going to talk about, because they of course, actually not the last little bit, one more thing before that. Of course, we had the setup and contract signing with Bobby Roode and Austin Aries and Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez for the setting up the tag team title match the next week. And it was interesting with the stipulations that they decided to add. I like the aspect that they did a 2 out of 3 falls match. That's going to be a fun match. So usually the 2 out of 3 falls stipulation is a fun match to watch, because you kind of get multiple matches into one in that sense. But the whole aspect behind, Hernandez and Chavo never being allowed to tag in TNA wrestling again if they lose, I'm thinking that's going to be the way they end the feud here. I don't think they're going to take the belts off of Austin Aries and Bobby Roode at this point in time. They could, possibly feud with other tag teams. And, Hernandez and Chavo have been teaming up for quite some time. It's probably time for them to go their separate ways at this point. And like I said, this is more likely how they're going to end this feud in some way, shape, or form. Whether they have either side win, I think this ends this tag team feud. But I'm thinking they're going to keep the belts on Bobby Roode and Austin Aries. So we'll see where they go with that match next week. Should be a fun one to watch. Now the last area I was going to talk about, which was their setup for Jeff Hardy and Bully Ray. Full Metal Mayhem with the next week's match at the Corpus Christi one. Of course, you got promos from both of them throughout the night. I like the aspect that Bully Ray actually was, kind of toying around with Brooke Hogan a little bit, saying, I've got an envelope that's going to change our relationship type deal. And then you have Brooke Hogan in the back thinking it's like, he's probably just going to hand me divorce papers. At the end of the night, it actually was nothing more than a front row ticket to actually watch the match the next week in the front row versus backstage or something in that sense. I mean, that wasn't anything special in that sense. It was a nice little tidbit that they threw in there. I think they set up the match well for the for Full Metal Mayhem with Bully Ray and Jeff Hardy. You got some decent promos from them in there, and just like I said, in general, you kind of got a different feeling that, they're building these impacts as more of events now versus versus in the past, because, well, they can now because, we have such times before pay-per-views, so long of a period before next pay-per-views, that you've got to actually promote the Impact Wrestling's as events versus just this week's Impact or next week's Impact leading into pay-per-view. So all in all, this week's Impact I thought was much better than last week's Impact. I think they did a good job setting up everything for the next week, just making that feel like more of a special event going into it. And it should be a fun one to watch next week. This one was also fun and entertaining Impact to watch. And yeah, that's my review for TNA Impact Wrestling this week. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.